eigenlijk wou ik het in het Vlaams doen. Ik heb al in 17 jaar geen Antwerps niet meer kunnen klappen. It's the first time in 17 years that I'm back in Antwerp to give a presentation. I've flown around the world, I've given probably thousands of lectures around the world, but hey, to come in this place, I was born just around the corner in the Wetstraat. Zijstraat van de Carnotstraat. And I think it's very important that to sense this spirit of the Zoo of Antwerp. I came at least 500 times as a young boy after school in here and saw the dolphins jump around and then took dolphins away. But being here, I wanted to share my insights of really what's the economy of the future and what can we do. But listening to this talk of Lars, I really do want to say one joke. It just popped up in my mind, and it's one of the first talks I gave in Tokyo. I live in Japan. And so when I was in Tokyo, I gave this talk, and in my talk I had this joke, because they always say put in a joke. And my joke was about, I would say, 1:30. And the translator, it's consecutive translation, the translator comes in, 10 seconds, over, everyone roaring and laughing. Just kind of thought, you know, this is very strange. Normally Japanese translations always take a little bit longer. So after my talk, I took the translator to the side and said, could you tell me, how did you succeed in translating my joke so fast? He said, I couldn't. I said, no. No. I said, Mr. Pauli told a joke, please laugh. You know, it's absolutely amazing what you come across. Now, I do very few talks these days. I used to do probably 300 a year. I'm doing only 20 a year now. That's it, not more. So this is a chosen one, Christophe, and you're responsible, and I appreciate it. But for me, coming to the zoo in Antwerp, in the Marmerzaal, jongens toch, allee, kom er toch voor terug. I came from South Africa, and I'm off to New York, okay? So this was not exactly a straight road. But some of you may know me from this particular experience, the Ecofur Factory, Ecofur in Malle. I built that factory. And it was an incredible experience. We were everywhere in the news all the time, but then when I went to Indonesia, I really had to ask myself the question, am I really the pioneer of the green business? And I realized I was not. Because I was destroying the habitat of the orangutan, and I realized that already in '93. And it was a shock. It was the brick wall. I hit the brick wall, and I said, how can I clean up the rivers in Europe? While at the same time, I'm destroying the habitat of the orangutan. I went to see my friends at Greenpeace, and they weren't ready to act because all ships of Greenpeace in those days were, using my products. Today, Greenpeace is doing action against the palm oil plantation that are destroying the rainforest. But this allowed me to get back into my own being. Ask myself, if I want to be a pioneer, do I just want to be a pioneer to make money? Or do I want to be the entrepreneur who's going to change the business model, a competitive business model? And I went to live in Japan, and I've lived in Japan since '94. And in Japan, I had a great opportunity to work with 82 scientists full-time. I got a budget of $10 million a year for 3 years in a row. And it's an amazing amount of money for someone who, in those days, didn't even have a PhD. But I got the money, and I got the chance to rethink in '94 for the Kyoto Protocol in '97, what would a new competitive business model be all about? And for me, it's about sustainability. And sustainability is the capacity to respond to the needs of everyone with what you have. Don't make the definition more complex, because that is how ecosystems work. Ecosystems only work with what they have. They never imagine things beyond reason, as we do. And so I started to criticize my own green economy, of which I was part, because I realized that green energy depends on subsidies, and those organic products cost more money. And that means that if we were ever to succeed, it's going to be for the rich and the few, and not for everyone on this earth. That was my challenge. So I imagined the blue economy, an economy where we innovate, where we generate more cash flow, where we have new jobs, where we build up social capital, and where we deliberately do everything we can to stimulate entrepreneurship. Wake up that entrepreneur in each one of us. That's what we got to do. We got to wake him up, because everyone, as a child, is an entrepreneur. Is discovering, is trying, is testing, is thinking, is dreaming and imagining. So I call it now the blue economy. If you don't like the blue economy, call it green economy 2.0. That's fine with me. I don't have any interest in the label, but what I'm interested in is change things around. Do you remember this famous proverb? If you give a man a fish, he will not be hungry for the day. If you teach him how to fish, he will overfish. No fish is left. Now that's what we have to realize. The wisdom of the past is not going to get us to the future. So what's all this learning all about? I mean, I believe that the only way to set up a business is that you have no education and no experience, and preferably no bank backing you. Then you're the real entrepreneur. That's how you should start. Because with a lot of money and a lot of experience, forget about it. You will imitate all the errors and change the fringes only. Now, when I think about innovations, I'm thinking about the whale. And I'm thinking how the whale is beating the laws of physics. Physics. Because I will only look at the innovations that I'm going to use for entrepreneurial activities if these innovations are based on physics. And I'm going to give you a whole series of examples. I'm sorry for those who study chemistry. I'm sorry for those who love biology. Biology and chemistry is great, but the fundamental shifts are in physics. The whale is able to pump 2,000 liters of blood with every pulse through 147 kilometers of veins and arteries. Let's talk friction now. I'm not going to go into the details, but this is where we get inspiration. When we do not apply the laws of physics, we're going to revert to chemistry, and we're going to make it toxic without knowing it. We're going to have collateral damage without wanting it. And if we go for biology, then we know nothing in biology is predictable. It always changes. Even the little seahorse. You know why the seahorse is the exception? The man have the babies. So in biology, biodiversity is that everything is unique. And therefore, if you want to have predictable industrial results based on biology, you're going to have to do GMO. You're going to have to put it in chemical baths. Otherwise, it's not going to work. But using physics, everything is predictable. Because the law of gravity always works 24 hours a day. No exceptions. So what kind of innovations do I want? I want innovations that eliminate the symbols of unsustainable production and consumption. Like the 300 billion bottles of Coke we're going to throw away. Like the 100 tons of titanium from our razors that we're going to throw in the landfills. Like the 40 billion batteries we're going to do away with without recycling. Like the cup of coffee you're drinking. The cup of coffee you're drinking, you're only consuming 0.2% of what the farmer ever produced. 99.8% is wasted and generates methane gas. You never associated coffee drinking with climate change. And what about the shiitake for those of you vegetarians who want to save the animals, but now you're responsible for the logging of the oak trees in China? We don't make the connections. We don't see how the business evolves. But we need to imagine businesses that will generate multiple cash flows, where we do take the coffee and the waste from the coffee bean is now going to be used to grow the shiitake mushroom. And thanks to the caffeine, the shiitake will grow 3 times faster. That means beating cash flow the Chinese. And the waste of the shiitake is great feed for pigs. I have 3 cash flows. And on top of that, I'm converting methane gas into CO2, which means I even have a CDM, a Clean Development Mechanism project on my hands. 4 cash flows. We're in business. Innovations I want are innovations where we go from scarcity to abundance. Replace something with nothing. And let me give you some examples. I'm going to give you 8 quick examples, 8 only. I'm presenting 100 examples over the next 2 years. And you can read them in Trends magazine. First one, look at his cell phone. What is so unique about this cell phone made by the Fraunhofer Institute in Germany? It's a cell phone that doesn't have a battery. You know all the mess with the batteries, the chargers you have in your car, in your home, the one you lost in the hotel, the one that's in the office. Now, how does it work? Very simple. You put a phone close to your body, temperature differential of 3 degrees, that puts your phone on standby. There comes the call. Now the call, you need more energy. Now where does the energy come from? Start talking. Yeah, of course, when you have a phone, you have a call, you start talking. But when you talk, the pressure of your voice is converted to electricity. And the longer you talk, the longer you call. Hey, I like that. This phone has been working for 9 months without a battery. How come it's not in all your Nokias and your Samsungs? And you see the little sensor here? It has a little flutter. It moves with 6 kilometers an hour wind, and it will power the sensor, which today are consuming 25 billion batteries in the world because we want to have fire security, but all work on batteries, which we throw away. This sensor, no batteries, $1.50, it works for 25 years. That's innovation. That's real innovation. That's shifting the chemistry of the battery to the physics that we can apply. And let's go on. Because I would like to look at the reason why the zebra has black and white stripes. I mean, how could I not talk about the zebra being in this zoo? The black gets hot, air rises, pressure decreases. The white is cooler, the air doesn't rise. High pressure, low pressure, wind. Here you see the first building I designed together with a Swedish architect in Japan. And we decreased the temperature inside the building by 5 degrees, simply using black and white. The laws of physics, very predictable. We can cut down on insulation. We can cut down on insulation. I mean, we're still in the mindset where we have to even put more insulation. Just use black and white, please. It works. Very predictable. The zebra knows it. The zebra can actually decrease the temperature by 9 degrees Celsius. Much more energy efficient. Or the termites. The termites, here is a school in Sweden designed after the termites. And this school in Sweden is able to refresh the air all year round every 30 minutes. Now, when the kids have fresh air every 30 minutes, the kids study better, they're smarter. And that's the air intake. Because the termites know how to get the temperature up in the mound, air goes out, under pressure is created, air comes in, air is heated through the underground. A passive geothermal, no pumps needed, no electricity required. It works predictably, and kids learn better. Here you see the biggest building in the world that is using this technique. It's in Harare, in Zimbabwe. I thought Zimbabwe had a problem with Mugabe. No, we all have a problem with Mugabe, but this is working. It's the most important, most sophisticated building in the world in Harare, Zimbabwe. And you know what? You see all these chimneys on top to take the hot air out so the fresh air can circulate. It's 22 to 24 degrees in that building all year round, even when it's 45 outside. No HVAC. And since we don't need these air ducts in between 2 floors, we have an extra floor for free. Break-even point goes from 55% to 46%. Banks will give you a lower interest rate. This is business. This is out-competing. This is not competing. This is not having an air conditioning system from Daikin that gives you 16% more efficiency. No. You don't need it anymore. Substitute something with nothing. That's what our mind has to do, and then we can advance. Or you look at this Ford dealership that is using the black and white as well to have an air conditioning system and a heating system at the same time. The black absorbs, hot air goes up. When it's winter time, let it blow inside. Summertime, heat exchanger. It's your air conditioner. I mean, this is innovation. And it's not around the corner or in 20 years. It is here and now, and we can use it immediately. No thermostat needed. Sorry, you guys from Honeywell and Siemens, you don't need that little thermostat anymore. If you have the architects who know the nonlinear mathematical models, it's going to work all the time, forever. That's nice. Or the chair of the home, the toilet. I have designed with teams these toilet systems where you don't need a septic tank, you don't need a sewage, you don't need nothing anymore. Everything is processed right on site. Every city says I'm nuts. That's an honor when they call me that. But no water treatment needed anymore. And the night soil, what the English language used to be, the night soil is going to go back to the earth. And that's where it's needed. Drinking water. I don't want any chlorine, that's chemistry. Here you see a very simple machine that is using the vortex. The vortex, yes. When you go to the toilet in the morning, you do this. and there it goes. And that swirling movement is the way water knows to go from one point to the other with the least friction. We use it in these water filter systems. Well, they're actually filtration systems without filters. We've done away with the filters. So no more membranes, no more filters, and you get clean water. What about that? It's installed in Texas. The company that makes it is in Sweden. No representative in Europe. In Belgium. Hey, entrepreneurs, where are you? And when I was listening to the bacteria, this red seaweed is actually capable of blocking bacteria to talk to each other. Because bacteria talk to each other. And if they can't talk to each other, they can't make the biofilm. If they can't make the biofilm, you don't get sick. How do they do that? They make this little tiny molecule that blocks the ears of the bacteria. I'm not going to go into detail. Google Peter Steinberg. You'll find it on the web. He's exceptional. That means we don't need antibiotics anymore. We can cure TB without medicine. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Why do we need the medicine? Do it without the medicine. Because in nature, no one uses antibiotics except the earthworms. Coal-fired power stations. This is what our project does in Brazil. I have more than 50 projects implemented around the world. I'm obsessed with implementation. Too many people talking. Implementation, only thing that counts these days. Entrepreneurial, stimulating young people to build up their own businesses. And here you see what happens. The CO2 from the coal-fired power station is pumped into the retention basins of the cooling towers, and there we grow algae. And with these algae, we fight malnutrition in Brazil. And we have too much algae. So now we have to make biodiesel. And we have too much of the biodiesel. So now we have the membranes, and the membranes are esters, and the esters we use in cosmetics. La Mer. You know the product? La Mer. Well, that's esters. You're buying esters from the algae, and we make them from CO2. 4 times cash flow. And they say that CO2 is a problem. I don't understand why people have a problem with CO2. The brain that thinks it's a problem is the problem. Because we have to start thinking positive. One of the companies I established was a publishing house here in Belgium that was publishing the books of Lester Brown and the State of the World every year. We got to go over to action. I'm only going to share 2 more projects with you. Over 25 years, we succeeded to go from a barren land of deforested areas in Colombia, in the Orinoco Basin. We went back to 256 species. We invite nature back to be in charge. 8,000 hectares, it's proven. Now we're tapping the trees, and from the trees we're getting a biofuel. Now the biofuel has a byproduct called colophone. It's a biochemical. It gives you the gloss on your paper or on your paint. And here's the factory. It's right there where there is not even a road. But locally we're producing biofuels and no fossil fuels. And the turpentine, yes, you know, the turpentine we purify can be used both in diesel engines and in gasoline engines. Solutions, 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 solutions. There's so many of them. Why do we lose time in studying so much more? Implementation is the key. Now here is what's happening. We plant forests. The forest provides drinking water. The forest provides us fuel. That gives us cash. And the cash we earn, we put back into planting more forests. And then we generate, of course, more jobs. We generate more biodiversity. We build up social capital. And the more forest, the more fuel. So it's interesting that the more fuel we're using, the more forests we're planting. This is how I dare to say we go from scarcity to abundance. That's what we need to do, nothing less. But the most important piece of data is this one. We purchased the land in 1984 for $1 a hectare. Today, it is worth $3,000 per hectare. That gives you over 25 years a better return than if you would have invested in Microsoft and held on to it. We have better returns regenerating forests than Microsoft can offer its shareholders. Ladies and gentlemen, that is what we need to do more. No subsidies, no banks. Confession, the Japanese government gave me $2 million. We needed 8 million to get this going, 2 million. Everything else we earned by selling solar water heaters. Change is there and right before us, and it's not difficult to do it. Last example. Here you see Chido. She's now my daughter. I adopted her. Chido is remarkable. At the age of 7, she lost her mother to AIDS. She never saw her father. Chido learned at the age of 12 how to farm mushrooms on wastes. And here she is at a coffee farm in Chipinge in Zimbabwe. Last year we set out the challenge to relaunch coffee exports from Zimbabwe. In spite of the boycott of the Europeans and in spite of the boycott of the Americans, I just used a little trick. We export it to Johannesburg and we get a certificate of origin from South Africa. Period. Sometimes you got to beat the system. Because let's not forget that before the apple can subject itself to the law of gravity, the apple must defy the law of gravity. So I sometimes have to wake up the apple in us. Sometimes you have to go against the system in order to change the system. And here you see the women that are being trained. And when people are happy and they know they can actually use those wastes from coffee to farm mushrooms and provide food security in Africa, they dance. And dancing is great. Now, what we're doing is we're reaching the unreached. That means we relaunch the export of coffee from Zimbabwe. That allows us to provide food security in Zimbabwe, much needed there. That converts agro-waste into a job. And when women have jobs in Zimbabwe, they will not be abused. 98% of all orphans in Zimbabwe are abused by family. Nearly no exceptions. And when women are not abused, then we will have the chance to save the girls from the sex trade. It's time to go beyond organic farming and fair trade. It's time to design business models that actually incorporate the ethics, the social objectives in our cash flow. We're not going to use the money we earn at the end of the day to do something good. No, the business model is designed to do good. We have too much business that does only less bad. Time has come to do more good. So we launched last year in California Chido's blend, her coffee blend, directly. First client, Madonna. It helps, I admit. But what is very important is that we start one by one selling the coffee from Zimbabwe. And last year, 7 containers were sold to the US. And every container has 25 cents to train the women. That's all. The price in the market, the same as any good coffee. I presented this to Nestle, Kraft, and Starbucks, and they said, we can't do this because we're not in the mushroom business. The whole core business mentality was such a straitjacket that they couldn't even imagine them doing it. Fortunately, we talked to Heineken and Douwe Egberts, and they're doing it. With Douwe Egberts in Cameroon and with Heineken using brewery spent grain in Lubumbashi, in the Congo. Cash driven by values. The bigger picture. How much food and how many jobs can we generate if all the coffee waste around the world and all of that what today is just generating methane gas would be reused? 50 million jobs. We can generate 16 million tons of food, only reusing the waste of the coffee that we consume today. That is as much as 50% of the world's fish farming, just by using coffee waste. You add tea waste, you're at 100%. Where is hunger? Hunger is in our incapacity to be creative and operate and respond to the basic needs of everyone. That's why we're failing. And because we didn't put in our minds that we're going to change the system around. Do you think you have an anarchist before you? A revolutionary? We've got to change things. We can't continue to live in these air-conditioned atmospheres where we're not succeeding in making the fundamental difference. And with 10% unemployed in Belgium and 40% unemployed youth in Spain, that's a time bomb. We got to create the jobs. And to create the jobs, you have to have the entrepreneurs. In 2009, we created 104 companies based on this model in Colombia alone. Average investment, $25,000. How realistic is this business model? I go back to my mentor in 1980. who said, "Some dream to escape reality. Others dream to change reality forever." Mr. Honda, founder of Honda. I think that TEDx conferences have to have a very clear goal and a very clear motive. You're going to dream to change reality forever. Thank you.